thinking through the resume portion of the application, but also experience, what are things that stand out to admissions committees?
So when you go to apply to school or a law school, whether they require a resume or not, I recommend that you submit a resume. So that is across the board. That is something that I often heard from my peers where the resume was optional, that they really wish that students would apply or would submit a resume. And so some tips I like to give students about their resume is know just off the bat that most schools will accept a 2-page resume. So unless it says otherwise on their application instructions, feel free to submit a 2-page resume. Underrepresented students, often that's really easy for you to do because oftentimes students, when they were in school, they participate in all sorts of extracurriculars. They may have worked while not a student. And so I like to tell students anything that you did outside the classroom needs to be on your resume, where that was you worked at McDonald's, you worked at a law firm, you were the president of the NAACP, you were in a sorority, whatever. Because essentially what you're showing with your resume is not so much. I know a lot of students think that your resume has to show that you have legal experience, etc., but that's not necessarily the purpose of your resume. The purpose of your resume is to show that you are a well-rounded individual, that you know how to multitask and handle a lot of different things at once, that you have some sort of leadership ability, that you are good at building community, which is often demonstrated by being in organizations. And even I said, if you worked at McDonald's, put down your resume, because what that demonstrates is that you are someone who probably comes from an underprivileged background. So your parents probably aren't millionaires. Surprise, a lot of students that apply to law school come from really wealthy backgrounds or, nice backgrounds. And so that demonstrates a level of diversity. It demonstrates that you're well-rounded, etc. For people that do actually have work experience beyond undergrad, where, again, that's working at Starbucks or McDonald's, or you have, some real professional experience, make sure you highlight that on your resume. If you're someone who can't fit all your past work experience on your resume, limit your job descriptions to 2 bullets and see what all you can fit in there. But it is true that students that have work experience beyond undergrad, that is viewed positively, often because what that signals to a law school admissions committee is that an employer is probably going to look at that positively. You probably have a bit more direction in life. You've kind of had time to test and see what you want or what you like and what you don't like career-wise, what your interests are, what your goals are. But also it demonstrates that you have a level of maturity and real-world experience. So you've lived a little, you know what it's like, working someplace. And that's going to show, when you go to work at wherever you go to work after your first year of law school, when you're in the classroom, you have that level of maturity. So I say this just to say anything that you have done outside of the classroom, whether in undergrad or after undergrad, needs to be on your resume.
And to add, I think there's a huge myth about what you have to do in terms of extracurriculars and internships in order to demonstrate yourself as a well-rounded candidate for law school. I think there's a common approach to apply for or take every legal class the university offers, know how to brief every case and have read all these Supreme Court cases, and then work for every judge possible. And that's really not what you have to do. Now, there are some people who are really interested in how our court systems work and are interested in litigation and things like that. And so I encourage you to continue, pursuing those opportunities. But
I did want to also mention, Maya, I also wanted to mention, since we're putting this all in the context of COVID-19 and its implications for those who are applying, I think that everything that both you and Keisha said is accurate. I think one thing that admissions committees might be seeing is a gap in employment, right? So if you're one of those folks who unfortunately has either been furloughed or unemployed as a result of COVID-19, then you can explain that or mention it if you think you need to in other places, and we're going to talk about those other places in a few moments. But also at the same time, law school admissions committees, they're also living this experience too, right? So maybe you don't want to explain it, and there are factors that you might want to consider when thinking about that, and we'll go into that a little bit later too.
Thanks, Taifha. That was really helpful to put it in context today. But you can demonstrate passion for law and a passion for a specific area without having done these traditional legal things. So if you're somebody who's still in school and thinking about once there's some clarity on how the world will function, what are some opportunities that I should explore? I really want to encourage you to pursue your interests. Don't think if you have a desire to go to law school that means you can't explore dance or some of your passions. I mean, I spent the bulk of my undergrad years, I was that person who took every legal studies class and tried to work for judges and did all that. And then I moved to LA and I discovered I'm really interested in how content gets created and how films are financed. And I explored that in law school, and I was able to do that aside my peers who were, striving to be the next Johnny Cochrans and Ruth Bader Ginsburg's of the world. So, think about what you like and pursue it. And remember, for every aspect of life that exists, there's some law behind that. So law is not just confined to one area.